Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another episode on the Touchline. This is the post-game week show for game week 27. I'm fully aware that this video is going to be posted, or even as of the time of recording, it's a couple of days after the game week has ended. Rationale being that, I just wanted to see some of the FA Cup games happening, and maybe we can just talk about that a little bit, as if the videos aren't long enough ever. But I think it's just some extra things to talk about. I've never been really doing like FA Cup specials or Carabao Cup specials. But I just figured that, this would just be a time for me to just add a little bit and see how that would reflect. And coming into the pre-game week show for Game Week 28, maybe there's a little bit more substance to talk about as well than how I'm going to make my predictions moving forward. But yeah, drop a like on the video, guys. I'm enjoying this series, and of course, subscribe if you're new around here. But yeah, let's jump right in. So again, looking at the Premier League table, I think it's quite clear, to be honest. Liverpool are one step closer to winning the Premier League title, and then obviously we've got the bottom three teams one step closer to relegation as well, unfortunately. Again, as for the top 10, pretty much, I mean, from third all the way to 10th, they're now separated by 6 points. It's crazy. Any results that don't go in any team's favor could see them just tumbling down, which is absolutely incredible, to be honest. And then you look at from 13th all the way to 16th, that's also pretty tight. It's just separated by a point. You have three teams in exactly the same points: Tottenham, Man United, and West Ham. What's splitting them is obviously goal difference, and as we are aware, Tottenham have one of the best goal differences in the league. It's just that they still find themselves in the bottom half of the table. But yeah, again, looking at the top 10, it's crazy, isn't it? And then, of course, I think a highlight in the top 10 being Brighton have won 3 in a row now, which that momentum moving forward could be absolutely incredible for them. Of course, Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, both of them drew against each other, and because of that, that only allowed Liverpool to continue to extend their lead at the top of the table. And to be honest, if you look at the Premier League table in itself, only two teams are unbeaten in the last 5 Premier League games, and that being Liverpool and Everton, both Merseyside clubs. Obviously, Everton, I think, have done exceptionally well since Moyes' arrival. We'll talk about that again a bit later. But obviously, I don't know how long this is going to take, how long this is going to last, essentially, for Everton. But as for Liverpool, I can see this continuing for pretty much till the end of the season, because we are obviously rooting for them to win the Premier League already as of now, unless somehow something magical happens. But that should be the case, honestly. As for these statistics, Salah surprisingly didn't score this weekend. I think he had an assist. So, yep, another goal contribution to his name. He's been, I think, by far, the player of the season. If he doesn't get a player of the season this year in the Premier League, I don't know what to say. I mean, whether he's going to leave the club is another thing altogether, but obviously he's just been incredible this season. If this is his final year, he's ending on an absolute high. So I think it would be a right time to leave anyways. If you want to leave a club on a high, I think it's now that he has the opportunity to do so. Alexander Isak on 20 goals, Haaland on 19, Wooden and Wemo filling up the top 5 for the goals and assists, actually, apart from Salah. I think no one else in the top 5 registered an assist, so that pretty much stays that is it, as it is. Right, so here were my predictions, and of course, once again, we had a 5 out of 10. I've never been able to get out of that 5 out of 10 range. I need to do better for Game Week 28, but I think this was one of the closest ones, to be honest. If you look at the results later on, I think it's really, really tight in terms of the predictions and the actual results in itself. And out of the 5 outcomes predicted, to have 2 of them, of me getting exactly correct, the scoreline, I think that's incredible. It's rare. I absolutely believe it's rare. So it's one of those times, I think, for this one at least, it could have been a lot more, to be honest. But it is what it is. Obviously, there have been shocks. I think Palace and Villa are definitely the shocks. And if we look at the results here, Brighton Bournemouth 2-1. I predicted the other way around. Palace Villa, this one I didn't see coming, of course. Wolves Fulham, I predicted exactly correct. Chelsea Southampton, I was 1 goal off pretty much. Brentford Everton, I predicted exactly correct. Tottenham Man City, I mean, I got the outcome correct, but I predicted 2-1, pretty close, to be honest. Man United Ipswich, I predicted the other way around, expected 2-3 instead. Forest Arsenal, I didn't see a draw coming, but I guess a draw happened. Liverpool Newcastle, I thought it was going to be a goal fest. Like last time, it wasn't. This time, I think it's a lot more straightforward for Liverpool. And for West Ham and Leicester, I predicted West Ham to win, but again, pretty tight scoreline. I think I predicted 2-1, so it was pretty tight. Right, so we're going to kick things off with Brighton and Bournemouth. And of course, over the weekend, both teams had FA Cup ties. Bournemouth won against Wolves, albeit on penalties. But to be honest, I felt like Bournemouth really dominated that game against Wolves. It is what it is ultimately. And Cunha had a red card as well. That is not very good for Cunha. For Brighton, obviously, the fight against Newcastle, I think that was really, really tight, to be honest. I think a lot has happened in that game. It was action-packed from start to finish. The players really gave it their all, and I think Brighton just, became the victors of that match. Newcastle, I think they had really good chances in the 90 minutes itself. Offside goals, those happen, and other things, other factors, and of course, both teams having red cards, etc. But of course, the focus isn't on the FA Cup, but more of this particular game. I think for Bournemouth to pick up another defeat, 2 defeats in a row now in the league, is, I think, in their case, a little bit concerning considering where they want to be in the Premier League itself. They want to be a lot higher, right? Especially how this season's they've been flying essentially. Looking at this result, I don't think it's the best, but arguably, Brighton created much more clear-cut chances, and I think the confidence is actually brewing in this squad. As I mentioned, we had that period where they were drawing a lot of games, they were losing a lot of games, winless essentially, and now we're starting to see them having 3 wins in a row in the Premier League, and with another win in the FA Cup. Moving forward, the momentum looks like it's starting to be in Brighton's favour. Again, momentum, consistency is all about, it's all what it takes really to be successful in football. And as of now, we're seeing that coming to fruition for them, which has allowed them to catapult themselves pretty much where they are right now in the Premier League, about 8th. And God knows how much better they could have performed had they not had that winless run at the very, what was it, the start, but halfway through the season. And obviously, as for Bournemouth, I think it's still pretty good, obviously. I think they just need to continue to take the steps moving forward. And I'm sure it'll get better down the road. I'm quite certain. As I said, even when they lose games, it looks like they lose with pride. And to be honest, I think this one could have been a lot tighter. But, I mean, it's just unfortunate, I guess, in some circumstances. But football being football, you win some, you lose some, you draw some. And this just was a defeat for Bournemouth. But again, as I said, the football that they're playing this season is really, really fun to watch. And every time I watch Bournemouth play, it's really lively. And even when they lose games, as I said, it feels like they've really given it their all. And I think that's what's really important, to be honest. And they don't feel dejected, and I think that's really important as well. So I think both clubs really, really good as it stands. It's just so happened that Brighton just a better team that game. They create much more clear-cut chances. I think give this another day, I think it will still be arguably extremely competitive. Right, Palace and Villa. Now, to be honest, if anyone expects Palace to win is one thing, but to expect Palace to smash Villa is another. Palace were incredible in that game, to be honest. Villa were in no man's land, and I generally thought Villa were an uptrend for a couple of games, to be honest. Rashford and Asensio. I thought this partnership was gonna brew in itself. I thought it was gonna get better. Just no, unfortunately not. And the way I look at this game, I was just thinking that's difficult, isn't it? I think it's a bit uphill for Emery to swallow. I mean, you would expect Villa to do a lot better in games like that, but then you see Palace just smashing them essentially. Palace was just incredible. Just nothing really much to say except this was one of those games where, again, when at the start of the season, when I started this channel, when I started making this series, the concern was with Glasner. Would he have been able to keep up with the Premier League? How was he going to find that form again? That 5 wins in a row from last season, he was not able to channel that into this year until very recently. We see an uptrend in performance, we see an uptake in performance, and the way Palace have been performing thus far, I think is still rather commendable. Not obviously not the most comfortable in the league, but they can perform in a lot of the games, and this one was just one of those games that they performed extremely well. So, but I feel it's like a fluke result, to be honest. But again, it's testament to how well Palace played in that game, to be honest. Villa, yes, again, scored a couple of offside goals here and there, but Palace just never gave up. And obviously, I think the Martinez injury may have also created the dent in the performance, because obviously they conceded most of the goals in the second half as well. So again, that could have played into factor. But again, you just need to be adaptive in games, and Villa just unfortunately not adaptive enough, and because of that, they've found themselves losing 4-1 to Palace. It's a big result for Palace, and it's a big result for Villa, just in the opposite direction. Right, Wolves and Fulham. Now, this one, again, as I said, you all know the Molineux is a very difficult place to play at, and for Fulham to still get a result is great. Wolves, I think they were also rather competitive, just not enough. Again, the final third just lacking a little bit here and there. Yeah, Fulham, just the class. I mean, it's a little bit of a class differential. Again, the quality that Fulham has in the Marco Silva side is showing in itself again. And of course, they did beat Manchester United on penalties in the FA Cup as well. great result for them. They're into the quarterfinals. Yeah, it's a big result, obviously, for Fulham, and big result for Manchester United as well. But you know, regardless, I think this is a big result for Fulham nonetheless. To just continue this winning, or rather unbeaten streak as much as they can. You know, to just lose as few games as possible from now to the tail end of the season. Just securing results as much as they can, such that, you know, they'll be more competitive and they can just finish high in the league. I think that's exactly what they need to do moving forward, and that's what they've done. You know, Wolves, a relegation threatened side, you need to just get the win across the board. You can't afford to make silly mistakes, and I'm just glad Fulham didn't really do that in that game. The bits again when they were inconsistent and there was that concern, right? And to be honest, even the game against Manchester United, I felt Fulham did pretty well themselves. I felt they were really honestly dominating a lot. Really forced good saves out of Andre Onana, and Onana actually performed reasonably well. I mean, penalty shootout being penalty shootout. Sometimes it just goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, but obviously, Wolves on the receiving end of a FA Cup defeat to Bournemouth. But I mean, you really try to hold their own in that game. So again, pretty unlucky. But I feel that Wolves were pretty competitive in this game and the Bournemouth game as well. But just come out with double defeats is what it is ultimately. But I just feel that, you know, in the final third they still lack something. At the moment, they're just essentially relying on Cunha, and now Cunha with a red card. What's that going to happen? You know, with his game ban that's coming up, it's going to create a lot more problems for Wolves in that game. So I mean, a game without Cunha is going to be very problematic, and I mean, we'll cover that in the pre-gaming show. But yeah, I mean, good result for Fulham. Unfortunate for Wolves, but honestly, that's really where they stand right now. Right, Chelsea 3, Southampton 0. I think this is very clear cut, to be honest. I mean, you look at the result, you look at the players, you look at the team, and you look at where they are in the table. Even when Chelsea haven't been as great as they were when we thought they were fighting for the title, this just shows again where honestly Southampton should be. They just don't deserve to be in the Premier League. Ramsdale made so many saves. It honestly could have been 6-7-0. And Southampton just been very scary this season, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the games, they really could have had a 9-0 potential again. Ramsdale's really saving them. Southampton, I'm not exactly too sure if it's the team that is struggling, if it's just individual players, they don't gel together, or is it the manager's not getting things right. But everything in Southampton seems extremely sloppy. Defensively, they don't look like they're communicating. It doesn't look like they've been coached how to defend in the Premier League. I don't know if that sort of defensive display is even going to be good in the Championship, to be honest. But that's exactly what's happening right now. Chelsea, brilliant across the board, honestly, in this game. They really showed that they can really perform, albeit Cole Palmer didn't score. Yeah, surprisingly. But you know, I think it's a great result regardless from Chelsea. It's expected anyways of them to really dominate in such a game, you know, even if it's not the scoreline, minimally, you know, the shots they're going in, they just have to be dominating as of that sort of caliber. And I'm glad Chelsea have managed to show that in themselves. So but obviously moving forward, how Chelsea perform for the rest of the season is going to be really difficult to tell. Again, somebody's been losing, somebody's winning. Again, this little bit of inconsistency, and in such a tight battle to get the fourth place is all the more going to be very difficult. So, but regardless, I think one game at a time. Ultimately, points are very important, and points are what they've got in this game when as of when they needed it. They've done it. For Southampton, yeah, it is what it is for them. They are just, yeah, at this point, just end the misery, just send them to the Championship before the Premier League season hits, honestly. Right, Brentford 1, Everton 1. Now, obviously, I predicted this result exactly correct. And again, maybe I came to this prediction with a bit of a Dutch mentality, being that, you know, a draw is already a great result. But I think this one, in some sense, I think Everton probably had a slight edge over Brentford in certain parts of the game, which maybe overall one would probably expect Everton to do a little bit better. I think again the chances they've created were a lot more clear cut. Beto again had two big, massive chances to put the ball in the back of the net. Arguably, it's both great saves from Flecken to really read what Beto was trying to do. It would have been very difficult, I guess, to score. It was either was going to score, or the keeper's going to make a really good save, and obviously he came in the latter. But they really tested Flecken, I felt, Everton in that game, despite not having many chances. But ultimately, at the end of the day, goalkeeper Flecken did extremely well to save, you know, Brentford from conceding more goals than just the one. So great. For Brentford, I think it's okay. It's not like a top tier performance from them. I think it was competitive enough, but I think lucky to draw the game for this one. To be honest, it should have been a defeat. I think Everton have now arguably have dropped 4 points because they really should have won the game against Man United and really should have won the game against this one. Which again, ultimately, again, is testament to show how much David Moyes has already changed the team just by coming in a couple of games. It could just be like, you know, an early stage, you know, the syndrome that after that is going to be worse again. Might just be a second season syndrome for him next year. Who knows? Right, but I think Moyes has, in some sense, I think he established himself as quite a decent Premier League manager. Again, with West Ham, I thought he did quite well. With Everton, many years ago, he's done extremely well. Obviously, with Man United, that was obviously a failure, but he went to Real Sociedad as well. I think had a decent stint there as well as a manager in a foreign league. I think, you know, he just needs to keep his head down, you know, and tell the team the same to just try their best. Obviously, I think it's good, you know, at such a rather early stage of the season to already pretty much secure safety in the Premier League. Now it's all about trying to get momentum moving forward. How are you going to adapt to games moving forward? How are you going to try to get results moving forward? And I think that's exactly what Everton need to achieve moving forward. As for Brentford, I think the aim now is if they can crack in the top 10, brilliant. But I think they're probably going to be 11th, 12th this season. That's probably the best where they're going to be, unless, again, from now to the end of the season, they just start to win every single game. Otherwise, I think it's going to be slightly challenging for them. But otherwise, yeah, I think these both teams, not too bad, actually. But I still feel that Everton should have won that game. Right, Tottenham and Man City. I don't really want to dwell on this too much, to be honest, except the the disallowed goal from Erling Haaland. I genuinely believe that should have been a second goal. I just don't get it why the handball. I'm confused, to be honest. I mean, yes, that didn't really change the game too much, albeit after that goal was given as a disallowed goal, and Tottenham went the other end and was slick football, and he nearly scored to equalise the game at the very death. But ultimately, it didn't make a difference, right? The goal. But I still believe that that should have been a goal for another goal for Erling Haaland. I just don't get it. Like it to me at least. It's contact the ball with bodies of Haaland and the defender. I'm just confused why that didn't count. But otherwise, I think it was a tight game, and we all know every time we go to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we are just bad. We just rarely perform. To be honest, it's some difficult stadium that we just never seem to do well at. So to just get a slim 1-0 win is fantastic. It's one thing that we just have to be pleased and walk away with 3 points. And now we're 1 point behind Nottingham Forest, who we're going to face next game. All the more I think it's really important. And of course, City beating Plymouth 3-1 was obviously a very dominating game, but again, Plymouth went ahead against the run of play. Gundogan before that having two misses, which were incredible. Honestly, should have scored. Somehow he's missed. Don't exactly know how that happened. But ultimately, I think, you know, for City, moving forward, it's still very volatile. I think it's very unpredictable, but still backing them to do well. Still backing them to at least get top four this season, and at least with some level of FA Cup run that they're having right now, I hope it ends up in FA Cup glory. With the teams that they're left, I understand they're facing Bournemouth, who are obviously very lively, but I still back the boys to do well against them and probably potentially maybe get the FA Cup win this year. It's possible. I mean, all the big six are out except them, and we're left with 8 Premier League sides, I think. Yeah, I mean, Nottingham Forest haven't played the FA Cup game yet, so we'll see what happens with that one. Oh yeah, there's Preston, right? Preston in the quarters as well. So who knows? Maybe we'll meet Preston in the final. I don't know. Yeah, but anyways, Tottenham. I mean, this one, yeah, they probably could have won. And I mean, obviously, the reverse fixture, the 4-0 to me, is still very memorable. And rather unforgettable. The season, at least, one of the biggest highlights at the start of a massive downfall for us. I mean, we lost to them as well in the League Cup, 2-1. A lot of things have happened with Tottenham this season, and within Tottenham themselves, a lot of things have happened in the club. So, but you know, regardless, I think looking at this game, yeah, not too bad to be honest. I'm just happy with the result. Really, at this point, you know, pick up 3 points along the way is crucial for us. And with no European football anymore, unlike some of the teams who are going to have to face European sides this week, yeah, it creates a very different atmosphere. So, but for me at least, I'm just happy with 1-0 win. Right, Man United Ipswich. This one, honestly, Man United should have probably lost. The momentum was with Ipswich so much in the first 10 minutes that honestly Liam Delap could have probably had a hat trick had he put those away. I think there's a header off the bar, etc., etc. A lot of things have happened, right? And Ipswich look extremely lively. They've brought it back to 2-2 after Man United went 2-0 up. And then, obviously, Maguire scoring a winning goal early in the second half, and that pretty much was the state of play for the rest of the game. Ipswich obviously trying their best to fight and to try to get the win, to even salvage a draw. Again, you've got to commend Ipswich's mentality, the spirit to just do as well as they can in the games. But again, I think time is no longer on their side, unfortunately. As I said, they just replicated Luton from last year, but obviously Luton this year, they're bottom in the Championship. So let's hope Ipswich do not suffer the same fate as them, because honestly, I look at Ipswich and it genuinely reminds me of Luton last year, where they tried their best to fight, tried their best to push, tried their best to do whatever they can to just get 3 points and to at least get some points on the board. Just not unable to, essentially. Obviously, missing chances, part of the game, right? It is what it is, but I felt this one, they probably could have at least had a point. It's unfortunate, I guess, for them. As for Man United, I mean, the defeat against Fulham is obviously disappointing again. This one, again, tight. And I think there's the statistic, actually, on De Ligt having the same number of shots on target this season as Højlund and Xerxes combined. I'm not too sure if this is correct. You might have to check. But I remember reading this somewhere, and I was just thinking, this is ridiculous. This is why Manchester United have been so poor this year. The fact they've not been able to have a proper striker or just good attacking threat. They rely on Bruno Fernandes just too much, and even had to rely on Fernandes to score the goal against Fulham. And obviously the penalty miss from Xerxes against Fulham. That's how they got knocked out. Again, really honestly speaking, Man United have spent a lot of money on strikers, or on attackers rather, and apart from Bruno Fernandes, I've not seen someone who's managed to really change anything in the team. Even defensively, Casemiro looks like he's gone from his prime. De Ligt looks a little bit, I think he looks dejected at times, because I think he's a really good defender. I don't exactly know why he started to move to Manchester United when I felt like Bayern was doing pretty well. I mean, he's also played for Juventus. To be honest, I'm not sure if he's doing a journeyman style sort of career. He might just go to a, what else is left? A French club after this? I'm not too sure, but, to me at least, it's not really good for De Ligt at the moment. I think his confidence is probably being affected slightly, but I'm sure he's still doing his best in the games. But yeah, Man United just... It's a tough one. I think if I had a podcast only for Manchester United, if I were to support Manchester United, I think I would be absolutely dejected. So I think it'd be worse than the MUTV. I mean, you've got the AFTV, Arsenal Fan TV as well. That would be a pretty depressing channel as well to watch. Yeah, but it is what it is ultimately. But at least, they've got away with 3 points. It doesn't look so bad on them. But as for Ipswich, I mean, unfortunate, because honestly, they probably could have at least got a draw in that one. Right, Forest and Arsenal. This one I felt, again, Arsenal probably won this game, and I'm sure Arsenal will have realised again that Nottingham Forest, yes, they are good to a certain extent, but Nottingham Forest at the same time, they look a little bit guessable now moving forward. Obviously, they've dropped multiple points already since the start of the year. It just hasn't been as good ever since, the second half started. And when I look at this game, I'm just thinking, well, this is problematic for Nottingham Forest. We talked about the downfall, and when I talked about it, they were going on an upward trend. And now that I've talked less about it, they're going on a downward trend again. They're obviously not going to replicate Leicester in terms of points. I'm going to talk about winning the title. I'm talking about just replicating the points itself. I think that's not going to happen this season for them. They've had a blistering start. But maybe the tactics or something, they're becoming slightly more predictable. That's only the reason why teams are able to pick points off them. And obviously, Arsenal isn't exactly the easiest opponent to face anyways. But ultimately, I mean, both teams dropping points is difficult. One, for Arsenal, their title fight is again in a more dire state than it was. And then you've got Nottingham Forest who are going to face City next, and if they lose again to City, City will overtake them, and Nottingham Forest could actually see themselves out of the top 4 by the end of the next game week. Game week 28, I mean. So, questions, problems, worries, queries at the club. How is it going to be? How are they going to progress moving forward? I'm not exactly too sure. It would be interesting, as I said, the 3rd all the way to 10th being this tight is going to be challenging, all the more challenging for Nottingham Forest. I'm not exactly too sure if it's the pressure that's getting onto them, but this is clearly not good from them. I mean, 0-0 draw against Arsenal is an okay result in retrospect, right? If you look at the result alone, but in the grand scheme of things, when they're trying to fight for a lofty position, third, fourth, it's difficult, especially when teams below them, once they have a momentum going, they can overtake them, and if they lose the momentum as well, of course, which seems to be the case. Yeah, which is a bit problematic because they're not like Liverpool, who can really keep a lead. Sorry, Arsenal. But yeah, that's exactly the state of play it is. As for Arsenal, I think they would be disappointed because they know that they have to fight against Liverpool. And again, are they really going to be happy with 3 consecutive second places in the league? Feels like it. No comment for Arsenal for this one. Right, Liverpool and Newcastle. This one, as I said, it was relatively more straightforward for Liverpool in a sense. And I think Arne Slot wasn't able to be in the game after being sent off in the previous one. But still, they managed to get a win. Still, the tactics are working brilliantly at the club. Things are going fantastically well, as I said. Obviously, they're out of the FA Cup because of the defeat against Plymouth Argyle. And then you've got the Champions League game that's coming up, and after that, Gameweek 28. So I'm not exactly too sure how they're gonna, try to manage that, really, really tight schedule. Would this impact the result for Game 28? I mean, we'll talk about it when it comes around. But as of now, I think they still genuinely look unperturbed in general, and they still look really strong, to be honest. So Liverpool being Liverpool, they're still fantastic. Newcastle, obviously, you're going to find it tough anyways to get a result against Liverpool, albeit I predicted the goal fest because of the last fixture that they played against each other. And in that game against Brighton, obviously, I felt in the FA Cup, I felt they had chances to win the game. They had chances to see it off in the first half. Just offside goals, maybe some chances weren't taken properly, and because of that, that's exactly where they ended up. Brighton just never gave up. It is what it is ultimately, but again, as I said, they really fought tooth and nail for that one. So it is what it is ultimately. Part of football, you win some, you lose some. It is what it is, and I think at least now Newcastle, what they have to do now is just move forward and really look at where they stand again in the Premier League and just try to continue to fight for as high a position as possible, because Europe is a chance for them next year. So I think as of now, they really need to focus on that. And of course, they still have the EFL Cup final to play with against Liverpool. Maybe they might win that one. I'm sure if you're given a choice to Newcastle fans, would they rather win the Premier League game or win the EFL Cup final? I'm sure it's the final, isn't it? Come on, it's a trophy. Surely, right? Right, to wrap things off, West Ham and Leicester. Again, the wild card is cooking something for this one. Albeit against a Leicester that's just continually struggling. Leicester that I just don't understand what's happening anymore at this point, and I've chosen to just give up and accept the fate that they're probably going to get relegated as well. Rude is just all over the place with the team. Nothing much to comment on that. As for West Ham, they took it to their advantage. They played it well. They scored 2 goals. Brilliant. Set, deal, signed, whatever you want to call it. 3-0. 3-0? 2-0. That's it. 3 points at home. Great from West Ham. Exactly what we need sometimes in games. We don't really need things to be overcomplicated. We don't need to look at ourselves and think, oh my God, how are we going to win games? Just do whatever we can in the game itself, and I'm sure somehow it will pan out the way that we probably want it to. But again, as I said, Potter is still this wild card that I'm obviously seeing, and I don't exactly know how he's going to perform in the next couple of games, as I've said. But again, if you look at the table where they stand right now, in about 15th, 16th, it's really not where they should be this season. And if you were, I did my personal, in my head, right, predictions for the Premier League table at the start of the season, and I didn't predict West Ham to finish this low. I can't remember myself predicting West Ham to finish this low. In fact, I was actually opting for them to get like 8th, 9th this year. Yeah, it's far-fetched now, but ultimately at least just get the wins on the board, survive the Premier League, and hopefully things will get better. Hopefully Potter will be able to find players or have a system that really suits these current players at least, and then potentially find new reinforcements next year. Maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But as I say, him being the wild card, that's exactly what a wild card is, isn't it? So, but I'm just happy with the win. As for Leicester, I mean, relegation is inbound. I guess it's unfortunate for them. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this one. Again, games have happened. It's been pretty hectic as well of a mid-game week. We have a cup game as well just happened, and then you've got the Champions League game, Europa League games, maybe at least the Champions League knockout stage is happening in a couple of days' time, and then you've got Gameweek 28. So really crazy couple of weeks for players and teams involved in all competitions, but that's exactly what's going on. But again, football is just enjoyable, so we're just here to watch, and I'm here to just tell you how I feel about some of the games here. But yeah, drop a like if you guys have enjoyed this one, and subscribe if you're new around here. I'll see you guys for the next one. Until then, goodbye.